Welcome back to part 4 of the 150-part IPDRG Masterclass right here on Decode Healthcare with Harshal. Let's jump straight in. If you are enjoying this lesson, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and share it with friends for this free course on Decode Healthcare with Harshal. Real quick, here is our roadmap for today. We are covering 1. Defining present on admission, 2. The 5 POA indicators, 3. HACSs and reimbursement impact, 4. Handling ambiguity with queries, and 5. Summary and next steps.
All right, Section 1. Let's officially define present on admission.
So the absolute crucial thing to grasp here is the timeline. CMS defines present on admission, or POA, as the conditions present at the exact time the order for inpatient admission occurs. Now here's where coders and CDI specialists often get tripped up. You've got to remember that if a condition develops while the patient is in the ER, or during a period of observation, or even during an outpatient surgery right before that official inpatient order is written, well, it still legally counts as being present on admission once they actually become an inpatient. It's kind of like a snapshot taken the exact second the admission ink dries.
Moving right along to Section 2, let's break down the 5 POA indicators.
Okay, these are the exact alphanumeric flags you have to report on your institutional claims, so definitely feel free to snap a screenshot of this as a quick daily study guide. We've got Y for yes, it was present. N for no, it wasn't, meaning it developed during the stay. We'll talk about why that's a massive deal in just a second. Then there's U for unknown, which just means the documentation in the chart isn't detailed enough for you to make a call. W is clinically undetermined. You use this when even the provider literally cannot figure out if it was there at admission or not. And finally, 1. This means the condition is entirely exempt from POA reporting, like congenital anomalies or external cause codes.
Let's hit Section 3, HACs and their reimbursement impact. This is where the money is.
Now, CMS doesn't just ask for these indicators for fun, right? It's all about value-based purchasing. Under the Deficit Reduction Act, CMS tracks what we call hospital-acquired conditions, or HACs, incredibly closely. They absolutely need to separate the pre-existing comorbidities that a patient walked through the front doors with from the complications that popped up under the hospital's watch. We're talking about things like post-admission pressure ulcers, hospital-acquired infections, or maybe a patient accidentally falling out of bed.
So as a coder, this right here is your golden rule. A secondary diagnosis flagged as an HAC, meaning it gets a POA of N, cannot, and I mean literally cannot act as a valid CC or MCC to increase your MSDRG payment. That severity adjustment, it just gets completely wiped out for that specific condition.
Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Imagine a patient comes in with sepsis. The sepsis was already there, so it gets a POA of Y. But fast forward to day 3 of their stay, and they develop an acute deep vein thrombosis, a DVT. Because that DVT popped up after the inpatient order, it gets flagged with an N. Now, normally a DVT is a major complication or comorbidity, an MCC. It's a big deal. But since it's a hospital-acquired condition in this specific scenario, it's completely blocked from increasing the DRG relative weight. The hospital just gets the base rate for the sepsis, and honestly, they'll likely be subject to a quality review for the HAC.
You can really see this impact when you're running your grouper tool. Let's say we have a principal diagnosis of unspecified pneumonia. Then we have a secondary diagnosis of heart failure, which acts as an MCC. With that MCC, the grouper bumps us up to DRG 193, simple pneumonia with MCC. That gives us a pretty good relative weight of 1.05. But if that heart failure actually developed after admission and gets hit with a POA of N, it gets stripped of its MCC status. Just like that, your DRG plummets from 193 all the way down to 195, which is simple pneumonia without CC/MCC. The payout drops significantly, all because of one single letter. Crazy, right?
Well, look, we all know the rules in theory. In reality, clinical documentation is messy. Progress notes contradict discharge summaries all the time. What do you do when a major secondary diagnosis like acute kidney failure is listed, but there's absolutely no clue if it was there when the patient was admitted? What's your next move as a CDI specialist?
That brings us perfectly to Section 4, handling ambiguity with queries.
Depending on when you're digging into those ED notes, admitting progress notes, or early labs, you're going to need to issue a query. If you do this while the patient is still in a hospital bed receiving active care, that's a concurrent query. If you're doing it after they've already packed up and gone home, it's a retrospective query. Either way, these are absolutely vital tools to lock down the clinical picture before you send that final claim off to the clearinghouse. Now, a quick warning when you're drafting these queries, they are strictly regulated by CMS and AHIMA. You cannot lead the physician. You can't just write, hey, Dr. Smith, can we code this as acute blood loss anemia so we get a higher DRG payout? No way. That is totally non-compliant and a fast track to a fraud audit. Your queries have to be evidence-based, crystal clear, concise, and they have to give the doctor multiple choices, including an option for clinically undetermined. And remember, whatever the doctor replies becomes a permanent part of the medical record.
Let's look at a quick remediation case study to see this in action. Say you have a secondary diagnosis of acute kidney failure. It's a powerful MCC, but it's missing its POA flag. You can't just guess. Instead, you generate a query pulling in the relevant clinical indicators, and you just ask, point blank, was the acute kidney failure present on admission, Y, or not present on admission, N? Boom, clear, compliant, totally non-leading. Once the doctor confirms Y, you update your ICD-10 codes, capture the true severity of illness, and secure the proper reimbursement.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Summary and Next Steps.
To boil it all down, mastering POA indicators is really about defending clinical accuracy. You're drawing a hard line between pre-existing conditions and hospital-acquired conditions using those Y, N, U, W, and 1 flags. Never forget the core rule. An N on an HAC stops it dead in its tracks from acting as a CC or MCC. This protects the whole system from paying out extra for complications that happen on the hospital's watch. And when the documentation is muddy, always rely on ethical, non-leading queries to find the truth before you hit submit.
Next time, we're going to dive into Part 5, where we'll unpack the Uniform Hospital Discharge Dataset, or UHDDS, definitions, and really get into the weeds on principal diagnosis rules. If you are enjoying this lesson, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and share it with friends for this free course on Decode Healthcare with Harshal.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Next time you're looking at your coding cues, ask yourself, how many potential major complications and the critical hospital funding they bring with them are actively bleeding out of your facility right now just because a POA flag was left blank and a query wasn't sent? Check your own charts tomorrow and witness firsthand the massive financial power held by a single, simple letter. Keep decoding, keep learning, and I'll see you in Part 5.